life without a care. We're gonna make a mark in pink this town red. Take a dive into the blue, see the world, make a move, a move. 'Cause we are young and nothing's gonna stop us. Nothing can hold us back. We can have our fun underneath the sun.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. At this time, I'd like to ask Councilmember Casillas if she would lead us in the pledge.
Yes, please join me. Right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Individuals wishing to address the City Council are requested to complete a speaker card and deliver it to the City Clerk staff prior to the item being heard by the City Council. Please observe a 3-minute time limit for communication, and once called upon to speak, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Communications from the public. This portion of the agenda is intended for the general public comment on items within the Council's jurisdiction that are not listed elsewhere on the agenda. Please note, the state law prohibits the City Council from discussing or taking action on these items. Please observe a 3-minute time limit for comments, and once called upon to speak, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, we did not receive any speaker cards.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the agenda items. Only one item on today's study session agenda, and it is a report on our branding update. Sean Hull, Chief Communications Officer, will present this item.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Council. Thank you for giving us your time today. Like you said, I'm Sean Hull, Chief Communications Officer for the city. And with me is Rudy and Tyron from Pastilla, who will be presenting most of the branding update. They're going to be giving the presentation. But Pastilla is our creative agency doing the rebrand. And as you may know, we are here to see some actual visuals today. I trust no one peeked at the presentation, and you guys waited until today to look at it. So thank you. But we're really excited to share these visuals. And we think we have a very strong direction. And just to clarify, the visuals today will only be on the logo and the colors and the logo identity. The seal, that's separate, and that'll come later. So right now we're just talking about logo system, colors, everything but the seal. So purpose of the presentation. So we'll be presenting both the tagline and the visual identity direction for the brand. Throughout the presentation, you'll see comps or mock-ups. These are only potential renderings for the purpose of this presentation. They help practically showcase the brand in real-world environments, like on billboards, signs or uniforms. And these comps, you'll see potential campaign messaging and copy. They're just for renderings. They're nothing official. Though we really like some of these comps, they aren't meant to be final renderings, so they're just for show. But as you'll see, all the visuals we do show, they are based on community feedback that we got and then the direction that we received at the study session on October 26th. So the brand identity is modular, and there's a lot of different themes and things that went into it, and all based on community feedback. So our ask is we have a strong brand direction and want to talk about it. That's basically it. We ask that you receive the update, and then we can have a discussion. So, yeah. But before that, we just want to give a little recap on how we got here. And really, it's just about the community engagement. So again, everything that you see here is supported by the themes, the motifs, the images, the stories we heard during our community engagement and feedback process. And we got over 22,000 participants. And those are all different leaders, business leaders, residents, commissioners, council, you guys are in on it. People who work here, members of historical societies, faith-based communities, so we really covered the whole community. And we did it in a bunch of different environments as well. As you'll see, again, you guys were probably involved in multiple of these. But we tried to engage people in a bunch of different ways. So we did in-person meetings and pop-up events and focus groups, and we got a wide range of input because some of the in-person stuff was more candid and there's more emotion behind it. Then we reached more people through digital surveying. And I think getting over 2,200 responses is really cool. And we also made sure that those responses were from all different segments of our community. And with that, we'll pass it over to Tyron to talk about the brand and actually look at the visuals.
We're not going to get to the visuals just yet. We're a little bit more anticipation. So just a little bit more of a kind of a recap. As Sean shared, we did our discovery process and just wanted to set as a foundation for our discussion around the identity system, just talk a little bit about the brand strategy and messaging, some of the key elements that came out of that process. And of course, the brand strategy that we built, completely validated again by the discovery process that we did that Sean has just spoken about. And of course, what stuck out to us a lot during that process is that Corona is a family-focused city, right? Unlike any other in the region, that stood out from both residents and visitors and just insiders and outsiders speaking about Corona and the family nature of the city. And what we really wanted to ask ourselves, what does family mean specifically for the city of Corona? That's a very general term. And so we kind of began to explore that. It means that it's a place where parents with children can experience safety, affordability, sports and family-focused activities. It's a place for young families to come and build a future together. It's a place where people from other cities in the Inland Empire and beyond can bring their families to enjoy that same positive experience. And we just, in terms of 5-10 years down the line, we see people speaking about Corona as that place where people want to bring their families to enjoy the environment. And it's such a welcoming environment in the city that singles, couples without kids, and the elderly all feel part of the family-focused community and call Corona home. And again, it's a place where family goes beyond the walls of our homes, where we are all connected by love and care for one another, whether young or old, long-term residents or new arrivals. We are a city on the rise that will never lose our small town values. So these are some of the key kind of thoughts that we put together, and it led us to a few of the strategy and messaging components that we're going to just share now as a matter of foundation. So first of all, our positioning statement, or UVP, which is unique value proposition. What is that unique, special magic dust about Corona? The city of Corona is a family-focused community. And what is that then led us to think about what the key emotional benefit is. What is a key emotional benefit? That is that when anybody encounters the brand, in the first half a second, in whatever space they're encountering it, what do they feel? And we believe the brand gives you a sense of belonging. Again, that's completely connected to the positioning statement, that sense of family, whether you're a visitor or a resident, a long-term resident, or new to the city, there's that real sense of belonging. That's the key emotional benefit that resonates through everything that we communicate from the city. What is our brand promise? Our brand promise is family first. What is a brand promise? Primarily, a brand promise is something that is internal. It's kind of like a mantra, right? And it's something that, employees and people working in the city, it's something that we can rally around. And so, no matter what decision we're making, no matter at what level we're making it, we're always putting family first. It's a compass for us, and it's something that we prioritize in every decision that we make. Brand promise can also be external, right? We can also communicate outward using this idea of family first, and it will become a component of the messaging. Then we also included the brand values, and these brand values were already part of, they came through the strategic plan. And so we had them from the beginning of the process. And we made sure that everything that we built from a strategic perspective aligned with these values, right? And so these are completely aligned with the strategy that we built and kind of resonate through the brand: bold, humble, driven, and then honest, kind, and team. You guys would have seen these before, but they fit in and really dovetail with the brand that we've built so nicely. And then our tagline. So this is our tagline, you belong here. And we like this tagline. A lot of work kind of went into this between us and the team here, just thinking about what resonates well on a few different levels. First of all, of course, this communicates that family brand position so well. You belong here. It's direct. Everybody who encounters it, it's addressing them, whether they're visiting for the first time or they live in the city. It's inclusive, and so it's very well aligned with the strategy. But we also like it because of its naming convention. We're also thinking about it in terms of how it works for future campaigns, right? You belong here, you thrive here, you dream here. All these key words that have come through in our discovery and strategy process. There's a lot of legs to this tagline, and so we're really excited about this and feel like it connects so well with the brand. I'm going to hand over now to Rudy for the really fun part.
Thank you. Now, you didn't take a peek, right? Like Sean said. So let me go to the next slide here. The strategy is really important, right? We take a lot of the research and thinking, and really what we end up doing after we do a lot of the strategy is take the thinking and visualize it. How do we visualize all these thoughts, all these moments, all this thinking? How do we put it into perspective? The way we started is, number one, looking at the history, right? So obvious, the lemon industry was one of the first. It's basically what created Corona. So in general, the historic sort of elements of the city are really, really important to the concepts that you're going to see in a second. Next slide. The mountains that sort of like hug the city, I think were also really important visual elements that have been here forever. They frame the city. I think it's something we also took into consideration when creating the identity. A circle, right? From a very long time, you've been to Circle City. But we wanted to unpack that a little bit, right? Like, what does that mean? And what kinds of other relationships can we have to a circle? So we're looking at a circle as, obviously, it's defining the downtown area, right? Looking at it from, basically looking top down at a lemon. If a circle is really like a symbol of togetherness, of wholeness. It sort of brings things together. It's almost like in the illustration where people are holding hands. And also, if you look down to a crown, it's also a circle. So we love this relationship to a circle and unpacking all the different aspects of it visually that kind of can resonate. The crown obviously has always been there. So we knew that was going to be something really important to take into consideration. How it was going to work into the visual identity, we weren't really sure. But we explored a lot of different ways to do it. And we feel that the concept that we're presenting, I think, has a really good culmination of a lot of these foundations. Typography was another really important way, a very subtle way to bring in a little bit more of that historic element. We looked at typefaces from posters in the early 1930s, some of the race posters, and trying to find some commonalities there and see if we can find some more modern versions of those typefaces that kind of have that reminiscent look. So what we wanted to do is take some of these historic elements and really find ways to sort of blend it and make it modern. We wanted an identity for the city that feels progressive, like feels like it's moving forward, but it always has sort of an eye in the past. Sorry. So, like I mentioned, a circle, right, was a core element we always started with. And if you sort of lay that circle down in the perspective, it almost becomes like a destination, a point of reference. In perspective, it gives it a sense of place. So we thought that was an interesting component of it, and we sort of started unpacking that and working backwards from that. If you sort of start to develop a path towards that destination, you start to see this kind of perspective of direction. You start to see a C start to come out. Maybe not obvious, but you'll see here in a second. No pun intended. And as you flip it in 45-degree angle, you sort of start to see the C. You start to unpack how it's sort of moving forward, almost like a beam of light, facing almost like this future. We keep calling it a future forward, a graphic element. And when you reverse it out, you see the C, right? And now you start to see the crown. You start to see how all the elements start to come together. When you're looking at the crown, at first it might appear to be a crown, but really at the end of the day, it's also can be a silhouette of some of the hills, some of the mountains. We can use that as part of the identity system. You can see here an animation of basically what I just translated. Oops. So the C is obviously an important element. And I think one of the really amazing things that we've done in the identity system is that we've highlighted the C as a logo type by itself, but you also see it as it stands out by itself as a logo mark. So you see the C by itself, and you'll see also Corona. I think that's a really strong element because when you see the typography or the word mark, you're also seeing the mark, and when you see it by itself, you're also going to continue seeing the mark.
Hey, Rudy.
Yep.
Could you go back to the animation and just let it play like 2 or 3 times? I just love it, so.
I have a loop. Okay, cool. And this crown, we want it to feel special. We want it to be something that maybe doesn't just belong honestly. It sort of can get personalized. It has a personality of its own. So here you're seeing it sort of highlight the O in belong in the tagline that Tyron just walked us through, right? So this could be a potential animation. We can use it in lots of different ways. And maybe it doesn't just highlight typography. Maybe we can highlight other things, as you'll see. You can see here a grid of how it would look in the color palette that we're going to talk through in a second, with a background just sort of bold green and so forth in the yellow. But you're seeing all the different lockups of it. You're seeing it by itself. It can be big, bold, strong. You're seeing it as a logo type. And you're also seeing it down in the second row, the middle one, where it's, you have the larger C and you have the smaller word mark, but then the crown isn't on there. So it's sort of, there's some variations depending on the application of the logo mark. The colors, we wanted to really obviously stick to the lemon industry. We wanted to focus on that. We wanted that right from the beginning. We wanted a color palette that felt like it was alive, it felt like it was a human, and also appropriate to the city. So we have like what we call optimism yellow, sun-kissed orange, forest and safe green, and it's kind of hard to see, but almost like an oak-like white we call alabaster. And the yellow, we feel it really sort of screams out family, optimism, lifestyle, aside obviously from the lemon. The sun-kissed orange really kind of leverages a little bit of what the logo has been already, the current logo, so just a little homage, and we sort of play with those two colors together. And then the green sort of reflect the mountains and the hills around us, and also obviously parts of trees and so forth, just everything sort of blending together. With the typography, we chose a typeface for the main type, the display type, called Domain Display. We love how it's both organic and modern. It's inspired by, this kind of almost like foliage tree, almost reflects a tree. The thicks and the thins in the typeface, you can almost start to see that a vine or branches sort of start to grow. It's also really friendly, but also really classic at the same time. When it's really big, it has a lot of personality. It also has a lot of weight, so when we use it, it's very practical, very, very practical. And then we're pairing it with a typeface that is kind of like a workhorse typeface. It's a really simple typeface called Serra Pro. Again, it has a lot of weight, but also contrasts the serif and the organicness of the primary typeface as well. How we're using it, we like the serif typeface as sort of the primary. As a secondary typeface, maybe using the Serra a little bit as a little larger, because it still has that sort of presence. And then for smaller body copy typeface would also be Serra with a smaller, obviously thinner weight, smaller typeface. So here you start to see how the logo sort of gets activated and starts to work together, right? So when it's used by itself, it starts to communicate and starts to expand and almost becomes alive when you see it in the application. Here's how you can see it revealing the message of welcome home on a billboard. This future forward, sort of visual element that I showed before starts to reveal an image, can reveal typography and so forth. Here's an application of how the counter space or the inside part of the C creates the graphic of a pathway. This visual element can be a campaign on its own, maybe a print campaign, can be an animation, or it can be in a physical space as well to guide you to certain areas. It can be used in a park, it could be used in different areas, just to sort of guide somebody. I think really the important part of an identity system, and you're gonna see me kind of talk about this a little bit, is that the identity system should be powerful enough to stand on its own, where you almost don't need to see the logo or logo mark to understand this is Corona, right? That's why you see us thinking through all the different elements as important as that first initial mark, because that's where eventually we want to be, right? So this is an important application that we're looking into. We also love this sort of beams idea where you can see the banding almost like a sun, like a sunset or light sort of shining as well from that path. You can kind of see a little bit of the banding here. So we like that other graphic element that also is something else to be used to highlight something. Here you can see like the signage at the park. There you can see another just sort of signage with typography and so forth. Here's how people could wear it, right? I think, people should be able to wear it proudly. And it's simple. And again, you can see how even just the choice to use that color for the shirt with the yellow and that continuing visual of all these elements that I'm talking about working together is going to be a very important part of the branding. Here's maybe what could be like even maybe like a silk screen, or this could be like embossed, but I think the point of this mock-up is to show that by itself, right, it could have a presence. It doesn't have to always have Corona next to it, right? You want to be able to recognize it over time and even people outside of even the city. So this can be embossed, I was going to say, like let's say in the cement or something, right? Where I think that could look quite beautiful. Another graphic element that we love for the identity is to have this logo almost look like it's locking up, or when you're cropping an image into it, it almost feels like the person sort of coming out of the logo from the center point that we call that sort of the point of destination or that pathway. And it almost feels like the logo is caressing the person or hugging the person, and it also feels like they're part of the identity as well. You can see here a couple different versions of that. Here's another application. And again, it's really simple, it's really bold, but it doesn't get repetitive, right? This is like really simple, changing the image, changing the language and the tagline already starts to give you a different feel. The applications can be really simple, right? Fun, bold, vibrant with the colors that we've chosen. They can be really interesting without any of sort of the graphic elements as well. I think this is really important so that the identity doesn't get old, right? Like we will see this for years to come, and it will evolve, right? We'll learn how this identity system starts to work when it's in the wild and start to refine it, and especially the city's creative team and marketing team, communication team, sorry. So here's how the branding extends to a website, right? You can see those branding lines, again, highlighting the people and the copy as well. The messaging would be something here like maybe family-focused community, something about maybe you're free to dream. And again, the banding, the pathways always sort of lead your eye to where you want them to go. So here's like City of Corona, the image, and the typography. On social media, right, can be really simple as well. On the left, you see a really simple graphic with the banding, almost looks like you're framing the mayor, and maybe it almost even looks like a house. The one in the middle, the future forward, almost looks like it's almost like an arrow pointing in one direction, or this kind of movement of positivity. And then the last one really kind of just, I think at the end of the day, highlighting that concept of a destination, of a point of reference. You can see here how on social media, how the logo looks by itself. I think it looks really strong. Even when it's really small, I think it's going to hold up. And you can see how some of the graphic elements play into the social media wall feed, Instagram here, for example. And I think one of the things I think that makes this identity really special, that this crown is a crown of the people. It's created not just for a symbol of the city, but it's a symbol of you, the community, a community that grows, dreams, thrives, and a community where you belong. And as I mentioned before, one of the strongest elements of this is that although this is a very modern looking identity system, we've never forgotten where we came from, and we have a lot of really precious elements that gave this city birth, I think, that are inspired, that inspired this identity system. You can see here how it looks compared to some other city logos. We just kind of picked them maybe kind of randomly. Bold and simple at first glance, but as you've seen in the application, there's a lot of different layers and a lot of different thought put to this identity system that I can almost assure you that none of these cities have the kind of thinking in terms of a full identity system as City of Corona will have. The cohesiveness of the brand elements that we've put together here in this identity system will continue to help you build brand equity, brand awareness, and over time, without even seeing the name of the logo, you're gonna recognize the yellow, the green, the C by itself as Corona. Next steps, I think is a really important part. Sean mentioned it earlier, that the seal is another big important part, and we are already on the way of creating that, where, you know, I think the next city council meeting that we're gonna have is probably gonna be presenting where we're at that phase. And we're also the brand guidelines and the toolkit. Thank you.
Yeah, and with that, I'll turn it over for discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. I think all of us peeked at it. Wow, okay, well, I certainly did. I was very excited about it, but I think, let's start with Ms. Edwards. Are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, yes, I have one speaker card.
All right, let's start there, and then we'll go to comments from council. Thank you.
Oh, oops. What the hell happened here? This would have been really good to have at an evening council meeting. I mean, honestly, it's wonderful. I'm sure there's going to be some differences of opinion amongst other people. This would be a really good thing to put out widely. I'm hoping that you guys are going to put this out on like a real live actual email blast, because this is going to be a lot different than what it was, and sometimes different by itself is judged as being bad. You know, I'm sure you guys are aware of that. But you know, I mean, I think it's kind of really bitching. You know, I really like it. But you know, this shouldn't be something that sneaks up on somebody when they see it on the side of a police car or something, or on a, like, oh, what the hell is that? You know, that shouldn't be the first time people see it. So, anyways, good luck. Hey, nice work. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm sure that there are going to be comments aplenty. And Councilmember Speak, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like it. It tells a story, and that's what we wanted. And it's interesting though that I showed it to my wife, and she didn't quite get it because she didn't see the whole presentation. But once you kind of see how each piece intermixes, it's great. And I love seeing the taglines. I love seeing how it goes in. And probably my favorite part is the crown, the design of the crown. I think it's simple, but it fits, and it really goes to why we're called why the crown and the Circle City. It's not just about the circle, but it is about how we are rounded by mountains, and it goes into our trails program and some of the things. So I like that part. I struggled a little bit with the font of the C, but I get it. I understand it. My first instinct was it felt a little bit too playful, but I think that's what we heard from people, that this is a family. This is a family-oriented community. Yeah, I'm under no false idea that everybody's going to love it and we're not going to get some hate mail. But I like the story. I like the way that we're tying it together. I'm looking forward to seeing where it's going to go and how we use it. I like the opportunity or the examples that you used. Yeah. That's it. That's all I got.
Okay. Councilmember Steiner?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I think you guys hit it out of the park. I think it's awesome. I love the tagline, "You belong here." Clearly, you guys went to school for this kind of stuff because you presented that very well and tied it all together very well. I agree with the speaker's comments that, we gotta tell this story to the whole community, just like it was told to us. And Jacob, I think we should get a future agenda item to immediately hire these guys to replace the signage at the freeway overpasses entering our city. Thank you.
No further direction required. We'll take care of that right away.
Thank you. Councilmember Casillas?
Yes, thank you. So let's start with the colors. They're fantastic. And they speak to that, modern, but, harping back to tradition. Are these actual colors names, or did we just brand them that way? Branded them?
Yeah, we didn't make them up, no. No, it's a little bit of both.
I like it. I like it. I really like it. The opportunity: yellow, sun-kissed orange, forest green. And I can see how these complement one another. I can see how they can stand alone. I really love the colors. The crown, I think, was really smart. The use of the crown on different elements to not just, be over the letter C, but, be over ourselves and our pictures, I think is just really wonderful. And I think it's going to be, I can see this branding evolving to the point where like that crown in and of itself without the C becomes the thing, or can be used independently. And I really like that. The typeface I think is great. I actually like our secondary typeface more than our first. But I think they're both great. I think the first one, is a little bit more traditional, and I think that's the point, right? And it seems like it will be the headline, but not the majority of the work. So I like that. And the tagline, though, is probably my favorite. You belong here. I mean, really making us feel what branding is supposed to do. It's supposed to elicit emotion. It's supposed to make you feel something. And I love my hometown, and I feel like I belong here, and I want everyone to feel that way. And I think that's really lovely. But as all things, branding is only, one piece of it. It's really a way for us to professionalize our content, but it's going to be how we work it into everything we do. And so this almost seems like the easy part, right? Like the hard part is going to be Sean and Sean's team, putting all of this to work and in creative ways so that it almost feels like it's always been there. Like this is the thing that's always been there. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this grows. So great job, guys.
And to that point, not to take credit, Josh did animate that part real quickly.
Oh, good job.
They did all the work though for
Good job.
besides that.
Good job.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
First and foremost, I really, really like the color that you guys used, the color DeWalt yellow. I can't.
The walls.
No, they did not. They did not use that color.
I think the DeWalt yellow is great. Or Caterpillar yellow, you guys can rename it however you feel I think it should be named. And that aside, I like that it tells a story. So I like that some future historian's going to watch this meeting, or hopefully watch this meeting, and know how the logo came to be, the tilting of the circle, the crown. Can you just pause it right there for a minute? The bottom of the crown and how it curves and meets the top of the C at the same radius. I think that's really cool. The colors really are the knock it out of the park, and then really there's a lot of ways to play with it. So I would strongly recommend that this be highly publicized to the public so that it's done right and their opinion is valued. And then, what was my other thought on it? To what Tony said the mayor said a few weeks ago, a lot of merch, lots and lots of merch. So I think you're unanimous with us.
Thank you,
All right.
Vice Mayor. Yeah, I had a hard time containing myself with this one when I'm not even going to call it a sneak peek. It was a published agenda. I was doing my job and reading it. But my wife was on the other side of the house, and I came and I got her, and I wanted her to take a look at it. The story, I think, is great, and I appreciate you walking us through the story, because I missed a couple of things just from reading through, but having you explain it, I thought was great. If you could go to slide 48 and 49, I think this is the part that really hooked me in, is the way that we have options to just use the crown. It was the slide of there we go. These ones, we're such a diverse community, and really what pulls us all together could be the use of that crown. And you could have, hundreds of different people in these pictures, and they're all diverse backgrounds. And what unifies us or binds us together as a community could be that crown. And if you could go to the page that had the branding versus other cities, I think it was towards the end. One of the things that I was thinking about is our neighbors, Riverside, that bell is synonymous with Riverside. And you can, it's inspired, clothing, merch. I was at dinner last night with a gentleman that had that tattooed on his head. He was so proud of the fact that he was from Riverside, just tattooed right there. And, so when I really started to think,
Are we getting matching tattoos?
I think Jim and I are the only ones that are willing to do it.
Council logos tattooed.
But when I started to look at the C and the crown above it, I thought, gosh, that's such a strong image that I could see the stickers, I could see the logo, I could see I could see the tattoos, I could see a lot of different things. And it would be a very strong representation of the city. I was very excited about this. I think you guys did a phenomenal job. I think all of us would have had chicken scratch on a paper, and it would have been awful. So we are certainly thankful that you are the professionals that you are that came up with this. I mean, knocking it out of the park isn't enough for me. You knocked it out of the stadium or whatever you want to say. I think you guys just did such a phenomenal job in capturing what we all believe Corona could be and is. So I thank you for that. And I think that's really about it. There isn't really much to do other than to receive and file this. But I think that you guys did a wonderful job. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep. Okay. It looks like we're going to adjourn till the next meeting, which is at 6:30 tonight. And we will see you back here again. Thank you very much.